It was a crisp winter morning in New York City. The streets were alive with bustling crowds and honking taxis. But in the midst of all the chaos, there was a small boy sitting on the steps of an orphanage. His name was Lucas. His head hung low, his tiny frame wrapped in a threadbare jacket that had clearly seen better days. To anyone passing by, he was just another child. But inside, Lucas carried the weight of a loneliness so profound, it felt like it could swallow him whole. Lucas had been in the orphanage since he was a baby. His parents had died in a car accident when he was only a few months old. Though the caretakers tried their best to comfort him, the other kids teased him mercilessly for being different, quieter, more sensitive, always lost in his sketchbook. His drawings were the only way he could express the deep sadness and longing in his heart. Meanwhile, Barron Trump was grappling with his own struggles. Despite his privileged life, he often felt isolated. People only saw him as the son of a former president. They never tried to get to know him. Barron was kind-hearted and empathetic, but in the world he lived in, such qualities often went unnoticed. One day, as Barron was being driven through the city, he spotted Lucas sitting on the orphanage steps, shivering in the cold. There was something about the boy's downcast eyes that struck a chord deep within Barron. He asked his driver to pull over. As Barron approached, Lucas looked up, startled. "Hi there," Barron said gently. "Are you okay?" Lucas hesitated, unsure of what to say. Strangers didn't usually talk to him, let alone someone who looked as polished and confident as Barron. "I'm fine," Lucas mumbled, though his red, chapped hands told a different story. Barron crouched down to his level. "You don't look fine. I'm Barron. What's your name?" "Lucas," the boy replied, his voice barely above a whisper. From that moment on, something shifted. Barron began visiting Lucas regularly. At first, Lucas was wary. Why would someone like Barron Trump care about him? But as the days turned into weeks, Lucas began to open up. He showed Barron his drawings, sharing the stories behind each sketch. Barron listened intently, never interrupting or dismissing his emotions. Through their conversations, Barron learned about Lucas's dream of becoming an artist and his fear that he'd never find a family to love him. Barron in turn shared his own struggles with feeling misunderstood. It was a bond neither of them had expected, but desperately needed. One chilly afternoon, Barron surprised Lucas with a gift, a set of professional art supplies. Lucas's eyes widened as he unwrapped the package, his hands trembling. "For me?" he asked, his voice filled with disbelief. "For you," Barron confirmed with a warm smile. "You have talent, Lucas. You shouldn't let it go to waste." For the first time in years, Lucas felt seen, truly seen. As their friendship grew, Barron began advocating for Lucas in ways that would change his life forever. He organized an art exhibit at a local gallery, featuring Lucas's work. The event drew a crowd, and Lucas stood in awe as people admired his drawings. Many even purchased them, and Lucas couldn't believe he was earning money doing something he loved. But the most heartwarming moment came when a kind couple approached Lucas during the exhibit. They had read about his story in a newspaper article and were deeply moved. After speaking with him and the orphanage director, they decided to adopt him. The day Lucas moved into his new home was bittersweet. He hugged Barron tightly, tears streaming down his face. "Thank you," he whispered. "You gave me hope when I had none." Barron's voice cracked as he replied, "You gave me hope too, Lucas." From that day forward, their bond remained unbreakable. Barron would visit Lucas often, cheering him on as he pursued his dreams. And Lucas, in turn, became a source of inspiration for Barron, reminding him of the power of kindness and connection. In a world that often felt cold and unfeeling, their friendship was a beacon of light, proving that even the smallest acts of compassion can transform lives in unimaginable ways. In a world that often felt cold and unfeeling, their friendship was a beacon of light, proving that even the smallest acts of compassion can transform lives in unimaginable ways. As the months passed, Lucas's life began to change in ways he never thought possible. Barron's influence wasn't just a fleeting gesture, it had become a constant in his life. Barron continued to check in on Lucas regularly, always reminding him that he was not alone. But for Barron, the change wasn't just about helping Lucas. It was about rediscovering what it meant to connect with someone, to be seen and understood without the weight of expectations that came with his last name. One evening, Barron invited Lucas to his home for dinner. They sat down at the dinner table, surrounded by Barron's family. But it wasn't the lavish surroundings or the delicious food that made the night memorable. It was the warmth in the room, the ease with which they shared their lives with one another. Barron's parents were genuinely interested in Lucas's dreams, and his younger siblings engaged with him like they had known him for years. As Lucas listened to the laughter and stories around the table, he couldn't help but feel an overwhelming sense of gratitude. The warmth of their home was something he had longed for, and in that moment, he realized how far he had come. "Do you miss your old home?" Barron asked, breaking the comfortable silence between them. Lucas paused. The question was simple, but the emotions it stirred were not. He had spent years thinking about his parents, about the life he had lost. The pain of abandonment had never truly gone away, and for a moment, he felt it creeping back in, threatening to pull him under. "I miss them sometimes," Lucas admitted, his voice wavering, "but I don't feel alone anymore." Barron placed a hand on his shoulder. "You'll never be alone again. You have a family now, Lucas, and I'll always be here for you." The promise was simple, but to Lucas it meant everything. Barron's words were a lifeline, pulling him from the darkness of his past and into the bright future that awaited him. That night, after dinner, Barron and Lucas walked outside into the cool night air. They sat together on a bench in the garden, watching the stars twinkle above them. "Have you ever thought about your future?" Barron asked. Lucas looked up at the sky, the question lingering in his mind. For so long, he had only dreamed of survival, of getting through each day. But now, with the love and support he had found, the possibilities felt endless. "I want to be an artist," Lucas said, the words escaping him before he even realized how deeply he believed them. "I want to paint stories, stories that show how much love can change the world." Barron smiled, his eyes glinting with pride. "You'll do it, Lucas. I know you will." In that moment, Lucas realized that for the first time in his life, he had something to believe in. He had a family, a future, and most importantly, the unshakable knowledge that he was loved. As Lucas's art began to gain recognition, Barron stood by his side, cheering him on every step of the way. Lucas's work was featured in art galleries across the city, and soon he was even asked to showcase his pieces in prestigious exhibitions. The boy who once felt invisible was now making waves in the art world, his work admired by thousands. But even with all his success, Lucas never forgot where he came from. He always made time for Barron, and their bond grew even stronger. Barron was no longer just the son of a former president. He was his best friend, his brother, and the one person who had changed the course of his life forever. One cold winter evening, Barron stood by Lucas's side at the opening of his first solo exhibition. The room was filled with people, but Lucas only had eyes for one person. Barron stood at the back of the gallery, a quiet but constant presence. As the crowd marveled at Lucas's artwork, Barron's gaze never wavered from his friend. Lucas's paintings told stories of love, loss, and hope, and each piece spoke to the journey they had both taken together. The exhibition was a success, but for Lucas, the true reward was seeing Barron standing there, proud and smiling, knowing that they had both come so far. As the night drew to a close, Barron approached Lucas with a proud smile. "You did it," he said. "You made it." Lucas's eyes filled with tears as he looked at his friend. "We made it," he corrected softly. In the months that followed, Lucas's life continued to flourish. He moved into a beautiful apartment, and Barron helped him establish his own art studio. Their friendship, forged in the fires of loneliness and pain, had blossomed into something more than either of them could have ever imagined. But the most profound moment came one winter morning when Lucas received a letter in the mail. He opened it with trembling hands, and inside, he found a letter from the family of his late parents. They had tracked him down after hearing about his success and wanted to reconnect. Lucas's heart raced as he read the letter. It was filled with apologies and regret. But Lucas knew that the pain of abandonment was something he couldn't simply forget. But as he sat in his studio, Barron by his side, he realized that he had already found his family. The people who loved him were the ones who had supported him from the very beginning, the ones who had seen him for who he truly was. With Barron's unwavering support, Lucas began to paint his most powerful piece yet. It was a portrait of two figures standing side by side, their hands intertwined. One figure was him, the boy who had once felt lost and forgotten. The other figure was Barron, the friend who had saved him, who had given him the strength to believe in himself. As he stood back and looked at the painting, Lucas felt an overwhelming sense of peace. The emptiness he had once carried inside him had been filled with love, friendship, and purpose. He had found his place in the world, and he would never be alone again. As Lucas stood back and looked at the painting, a profound sense of peace washed over him. The emptiness he had once carried inside him had been filled with love, friendship, and purpose. He had found his place in the world, and he would never be alone again. The brushstrokes on the canvas captured not only the figures of himself and Barron, but the depth of their bond, the silent understanding they shared, and the journeys they had taken together. It was more than just a painting. It was a testament to the healing that had occurred, the brokenness that had been mended. The painting had taken months to complete, each stroke of paint a reflection of the time and effort Barron had put into being there for Lucas. It was raw, yet tender, showcasing the transformation that had taken place within him. From a lost boy wandering through a world that felt indifferent, to a man who had found his purpose, surrounded by those who cared for him. Barron stood beside him, looking at the painting with a soft smile. It wasn't the first time Barron had seen Lucas's work, but this piece felt different. It wasn't just a reflection of Lucas's art, it was a mirror to both their hearts. "You've come so far, Lucas," Barron said, his voice thick with emotion. "When we first met, you never imagined this moment. Neither of us did." Lucas turned to face his friend, his eyes misty with the weight of it all. "No," he admitted, his voice low. "I didn't know what my life was going to be, or if I even had a place in it. But you..." He paused, finding it hard to put into words. "You made me see that I was worth something." Barron shook his head, placing a hand on Lucas's shoulder. "You were always worth something," he said. "You just needed to see it for yourself." Tears welled up in Lucas's eyes, and he quickly blinked them away, embarrassed. He wasn't used to feeling this vulnerable, this open, but there was no need to hide with Barron anymore. Their bond was as solid as any family he could ever ask for. The next few weeks were a blur of excitement as Lucas's painting went on display at a well-known art gallery. It was the culmination of years of work, of healing, of growth. When the day came for the exhibition, Lucas was a bundle of nerves, unsure if his work would be received well. Barron had offered to accompany him, and together they stood at the entrance of the gallery, surrounded by people dressed in fine clothing, artists, critics, and admirers. "This is it, huh?" Lucas said, nervously adjusting his jacket. "I've been waiting for this moment." my entire life." Barron gave him a reassuring smile. "You've earned it. Just be proud of what you've done. You're already a success, Lucas." As they walked through the crowd, Lucas's heart raced. His art was displayed on the walls, framed with care. He couldn't believe his eyes when he saw people standing in front of his pieces, admiring them, whispering to one another. It was a moment of validation, but more importantly, it was a testament to the resilience he had shown over the years. The evening was filled with laughter, conversation, and compliments. Yet, through it all, Lucas couldn't help but feel the presence of Barron by his side. Barron was not only his best friend, but his rock, the one person who had supported him through every hardship, every doubt, and every moment of pain. They were more than just friends. They were brothers, united by a shared journey of transformation. At the end of the night, as the gallery began to empty, Lucas stood before his work one last time. He ran his hand over the smooth surface of the painting that had started it all, the piece that depicted him and Barron together, a symbol of their unshakable friendship. "I never thought I'd be here," Lucas whispered almost to himself. "I never thought I could have a life like this." Barron stood beside him, his voice gentle. "You've created this life, Lucas, through your strength, your art, and your heart." For the first time, Lucas didn't feel like he was pretending to be someone else. He wasn't just an orphan, a lost boy looking for answers. He was Lucas, a man who had overcome his past, built something meaningful, and forged bonds that would last a lifetime. The weeks that followed were filled with new opportunities for Lucas. His work began to garner attention from larger galleries, and he was even asked to collaborate with some well-known artists. But despite his rising fame, he never let it go to his head. He remained grounded, always remembering the kindness and friendship Barron had shown him when no one else did. As he spent more time with Barron, Lucas realized that the true beauty of their friendship was that it had never been about what either of them could offer. It had always been about understanding, acceptance, and the unspoken bond they shared. In a world that often placed value on status, wealth, and accomplishments, Barron had shown Lucas that true friendship was worth more than anything material. One evening, as they sat together in Lucas's studio, Barron turned to him with a thoughtful expression. "You've done so much, Lucas. I'm proud of everything you've achieved. But you've also given me something I never expected. You made me see the importance of being present in people's lives, of giving without expecting anything in return." Lucas smiled, grateful for Barron's words. "I think we've both taught each other something," he said, his voice soft. "I've learned what it means to be loved, to have someone believe in me. And that's something I'll never take for granted." Their conversation drifted into a comfortable silence, both of them savoring the rare stillness that came with being truly content. Barron stood up and walked over to the window, looking out over the city as the sun dipped below the horizon. "I'm glad I met you, Lucas," Barron said quietly. "I think we were meant to find each other." Lucas nodded, his heart full. "Me too." As the days passed, their friendship only grew stronger. They continued to support one another, sharing both their triumphs and their challenges. Lucas's work continued to be showcased in prestigious galleries, and soon he began to give back to the community that had supported him throughout his journey. One of his first charitable efforts was to hold an art auction, with all the proceeds going to children's hospitals and shelters for orphans. The idea had come to him one night as he reflected on his own experiences. He knew the impact that kindness had on his life, and he wanted to offer that same hope to others. Barron was by his side every step of the way, helping to organize the event and ensuring that everything ran smoothly. The auction was a massive success, raising hundreds of thousands of dollars for those in need. And as Lucas looked around at the smiling faces in the crowd, he knew that he had found his true calling. Not just as an artist, but as someone who could make a difference in the world. In the end, it wasn't fame or fortune that defined Lucas's success. It was the people who stood by him, the friendships he had forged, and the lives he had touched along the way. And through it all, Barron remained at his side, proving that sometimes the greatest treasures in life aren't the ones we seek, but the ones we discover when we open our hearts to those around us. And so, the journey of Lucas and Barron became a testament to the power of kindness, friendship, and second chances. Through their bond, Lucas found not only success, but the true meaning of belonging and purpose. It was never about fame or accolades, but the quiet moments, the small acts of love and care that truly shaped his life. As Lucas continues to create, to give back, and to inspire others, we are reminded that the most profound changes often come not from grand gestures, but from the simple, consistent kindness we show one another. Barron's unwavering belief in Lucas helped him discover his worth, and in turn, Lucas helped Barron see the beauty of the world through a different lens. Their story serves as a powerful reminder that we all have the ability to change someone's life. Sometimes all it takes is a little compassion, understanding, and a willingness to stand by someone when they need it the most. If this heartwarming story moved you, don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more tales of hope and transformation, and share it with your friends. Let's spread the message that kindness has the power to change lives no matter who we are or where we come from. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.